Okay, hello Cloud Gurus and welcome to this installment of our Custom Mode VPC Lab. So far in this series, we've already created the VPC shell, and we've created this service account with a custom role for our front-end instances. So now we're going to put both of these things to use and finish configuring our VPC. So let's head over to Compute Engine and make an instance template. This will be our front-end instance template, and we can make it a micro instance, and scroll down to the service account, where we choose the new service account that we created. Now when we choose this service account, notice that we're not prompted to set the access scopes. Access scopes really only apply to the default service account. And since we've created a custom service account, Google assumes that the permissions that we've granted to that service account are exactly what we want. Now we'll also expand these advanced options and switch over to the Networking tab. Here we see that the App VPC has already been selected, because it's the only VPC that we have in this project. If you didn't delete the other VPCs yourself, then you might have to make sure that this is set to the right one here. For the subnet, we may as well just choose the Oregon subnet here. And although we could set network tags here, we're not going to in this case. We'll use the service account that we've set as the primary mechanism for controlling the networking, but we will also get to this network tags in just a little bit. Well, we're done with this instance template, so we can create it, and then go and make ourselves a managed instance group with it. This will be our front-end instance group, and we'll say that it's a multiple zone US West 1 group. All the zones are included, and that's what we want. We'll choose the front-end instance template, and although there isn't really going to be any auto-scaling happening because we're not actually using the CPU, we'll just leave most of these defaults, but set our minimum to 2 and our maximum to 3. That's all we need here, so we'll hit Create. Of course, this will take just a little bit of time to spin up the instances. But when it's done, we can go and take a look at them, grab one of the external IP addresses to the clipboard, switch to Cloud Shell, and try to ping it. Turns out that the ping does not get through. So let's take a look at why. Let's switch back to the console and go to the VPC that we've created. We click on App-VPC and switch to the firewall rules. Remember, there aren't any. But let's say that we do want to allow some incoming traffic to these front-end instances. And we click Add Firewall Rule. Now we'll call this firewall rule Allow Incoming to Front-End, and I'm tacking on a -FWR just to make it clear that this is a firewall rule. Scrolling down, we can say that the direction of the traffic is ingress, this is incoming traffic, and we want to allow that traffic. But how do we want to apply this? We can choose that either all instances in the network are allowed incoming traffic, but that's not what we want. We could set specified target tags, but we decided not to put any network tags on those instances. Instead, we're going to choose a specified service account in this project and say that if it's using the front-end-SA service account, that is what turns on this firewall rule. In terms of what we're allowing, we're going to say that the IP range of all traffic, being 0.0.0.0/0, is going to allow ICMP. Now, for a normal front end, we would generally be allowing TCP traffic on port 80 or 443 so that HTTP and HTTPS connections can be made to these instances. But I want to focus this lab on the network traffic and not on setting up web servers, so I'm just going to say that ICMP, like ping or whatever, is what we're using to test whether the connections can be made. I'm going to hit Create on this firewall rule. Give it just a minute to finish creating. There we go. Now I'll switch back to Cloud Shell and ping that machine again. Instantly, we get a response. Now, if you want, you could launch another instance in the Oregon subnet and not give it any service account. And then if you try to ping that instance, you'll see that you still can't connect to it. This firewall rule is only being applied to the targets with this service account. So now let's go back to the compute engine instances and pick one of these instances and try to connect with SSH. Of course, that won't work. So I'll speed this up so you don't have to wait. There we go. Of course, we're not able to connect to the VM on port 22. So what should we do to fix that then? Well, if we go into the instance, we can remind ourselves that there are no network tags set. But if we wanted to, we could set one. So let's link to the VPC, go to the firewall rules, add a firewall rule, call this one OpenSSH by tag FWR, leave this as allow ingress, and set the target tag to OpenSSH tag. Now, for the source IP address range, this is definitely an opportunity to scope things down, but in the interest of making sure that this lab works for you, I'm just going to leave this as 0.0.0.0/0. Of course, the reason we're here is because we want to allow SSH, so that's TCP port 22. That's all we need, and we can click Create. When that has finished creating, I'll grab this open-ssh-tag to the clipboard and navigate back over to our front-end instance group. Let's pick the instance in Zone A and edit this instance, which, as I've mentioned before, is not something that you usually want to do. But in this case, we're just applying this one network tag to the instance, saving our changes, and then retrying our connection with SSH. Well, now we've gotten somewhere. Our SSH connection was successful, so we could investigate whatever it was we wanted and just close the window when we're done. Now, when we're finished connecting to this machine, we could definitely edit this instance to remove the network tag. But let's get rid of this tag in a different way instead. Let's go to our front-end instance group and do a rolling replace instead. We can say that the operation is to replace, meaning it'll delete the instances and create new ones. And since these are just test instances, we don't really care too much about them becoming unavailable for a little bit, so we'll just leave these defaults and say replace. Now if we go to the list of VM instances, we'll see the action in progress. When it finishes, we see we have new instance names, and if we go to the instance in Zone A, we'll see that it has been reset to the way it was before. No network tag, and attempting to SSH to it will once again fail. Well, I hope that you found this to be an interesting walk through a number of the different services that we've been covering and see how they come together. Of course, in your real-world circumstances, you would make different decisions about which ports and protocols to be opening up, and you might choose to do things a bit differently in terms of service accounts, firewall rules, network tags. The point is that these are tools that you can take advantage of to address your particular scenarios. Well, let's close this down. And of course, at the end of every lab, we should always clean up after ourselves. In this case, we have 2 running instances. So let's go into the Managed Instance group and edit it to turn off auto-scaling and say that we want 0 instances for now. We hit Save, and that'll get rid of the things that would cost us any money. Now, of course, you could also go and delete all of the stuff we've done, or even delete the project. But I've got a challenge for you that builds on this, so you probably don't want to get rid of it just yet. Well, if you have any questions for me, please let me know. And when you're ready for the challenge, I'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you.